We've officially arrived at 2026, and before we look at the horizon, we have to take a quick look at how we got here. 2025 in cinema, for me, was a year of massive polarized extremes. Gun to my head, if I had to put a label on the year, I think I would go with auteur gamble. I look back at something like Robert Eggers' Nosferatu or Ryan Coogler's Sinners, and I see movies that weren't just content, they were atmospheres. They were tactile. Wake Up Dead Man proved Rian Johnson can still keep us guessing, and Darren Aronofsky's Caught Stealing gave Austin Butler, an actor I'm personally not a huge fan of. Editing Leone here, I just quickly like to say that he's really won me over with his roles in Dune and in Caught Stealing. I don't know what it was during his Elvis press tour, he just really gave me the ick. But now I'm excited to see what he does next. A frantic, gritty energy that felt like a throwback to 90s crime thrillers. These were films that felt like they were made by people with a pulse. That being said, I'm also partial to blockbusters like Wicked Part 2. I don't know why, but the Wicked franchise to me gave me a feeling of nostalgia just with the sheer volume of content that we were getting throughout the last 2.5 years. I saw somewhere in a video, I don't remember the exact number, but the amount of vendors that Wicked paired with to be allowed to market stuff was insane. I mean, we had Wicked mac and cheese, shampoos, other food items, beauty items, figurines, costumes, dresses, the whole shebang. And while it can feel a little bit over the top, and I definitely have my thoughts on Wicked Part 2 being a bit more lackluster than the first part, I had to admit that there was some fun in there for me seeing so many people enjoy a movie like this again. Additionally, there were movies in 2025 that it breaks my heart to say I still haven't seen, including Warfare, Marty Supreme, and Eternity. But on the flip side, 2025 also showed us the bottom of the barrel. We saw big budget algorithm movies like The Electric State feel completely lifeless, and the absolute disaster that was The War of the Worlds remake, a movie that feels less like an alien invasion and more like a 90-minute Amazon commercial.
Wait, give him an Amazon gift card for $1,000.
Honestly, I had to force myself to sit through this movie, and it pains me to say that that's one of the movies I did see, and Warfare is one of the movies I didn't see last year. The lesson of 2025 was clear. Scale without soul is a waste of time. Audiences are getting smarter, and we don't want content slop anymore, and we definitely don't want AI content slop merged into our movies. We want vision, and as we look at the 2026 slate, it seems like Hollywood is maybe starting to listen. We aren't just getting sequels next year, we're getting new, interesting stories coming across our screens. Today, I want to talk about the movies that are coming up in 2026 that have me actually prepared to pay the price of a cinema ticket and go, while also talking a little bit about the themes that I think we'll see recurring over the next few months. Starting off with what I've termed the new blockbuster. This section for me contains movies like Dune Messiah, 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple, Sunrise on the Reaping, and Disclosure Day. In 2026, I think the blockbuster is no longer just a sequel, it's a reckoning. We have Dune Messiah. Denis Villeneuve has earned our total trust, and Messiah is where he gets to deconstruct the hero he's built. Dune 1 and 2 were incredibly well received through a mix of fantastic acting, cinematography, and obviously we can't talk about Dune without talking about the amazing soundtrack. Sitting in the cinema and hearing some of those themes for the first time blasted over the speakers made it worth going already. Yes, it helps that Dune has an existing fan base and in a way is already an existing franchise, but I think we can all agree that Villeneuve's take on it made it the spectacle that it's become. I can't wait to see where he takes the story next. Obviously we have the books, but I'm really intrigued to see what they choose to put in the third movie and how it all ends up playing out. Then there's The Bone Temple. This is the 28 Days Later universe, but Nia Da Costa and Alex Garland have shifted it into this kind of high-tech, primitive apocalypse, feeling ancient yet futuristic at the same time. I personally thoroughly enjoyed 28 Years Later, and I'm intrigued to see the continuation of the story. I'm assuming we fully retconned 28 Weeks Later, since no one ever talks about it again, nor really acknowledges the existence of it and the plot lines going through it. Ralph Fiennes is such an interesting actor to me, and I'm really intrigued to see how he continues to play this character that we were introduced to in 28 Years Later. And then of course we have Sunrise on the Reaping. After the success of Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, we're going back to Haymitch's Games. It's a tragedy we already know the ending to, which makes it even more grippy. As soon as the announcement was made that we were getting another book and a movie, I think I lost my shit a little bit. I've been a huge Hunger Games fan from the beginning. I read those books in like 2 weekends. As soon as the book came out, I read it, my sister read it, my friends read it, we all talked about it, and I've followed the discourse around the casting announcement as time goes on. I've also followed the discourse around the Hunger Games play that's here in London, which has received very mixed reviews, and while I've been very tempted to go, I think the mixed reviews are stopping me from spending the money. That being said, nothing's going to stop me from buying a cinema ticket to go see this movie. These movies, to me, I think are a slight representation of blockbuster fatigue and a one for original storytelling. And I think that within that, there's still a space for movies like these that, yes, have an existing franchise and fan base, but have something to say. All three movies that are being created, to me, aren't being created just for the sake of money. To me, they really feel like they're being made because the director or the author had something else to say. An outlier in this kind of synopsis of those movies is Disclosure Day. It has the massive budget of a blockbuster franchise, but it's an original Steven Spielberg UFO epic. It's the blockbuster that doesn't have a fan base to rely on to come to the cinema. Instead, it's trying to create one. It's a gamble on an original story, but on the scale of a blockbuster that I feel like we don't get to see as often. Obviously, Steven Spielberg's name being attached to it makes it easier for him to take a gamble like this. That being said, the movie has classic blockbuster elements with a budget that seems to be set over $200 million, a decked out cast, and world-ending stakes. But I'm really excited to see where Spielberg's going to take it. That nicely brings us to our second theme, the mythic retelling. This section focuses on Wuthering Heights and the Odyssey. Last year, we saw another submission to the book to movie adaptation pipeline, Frankenstein, a book that's been explored in not just multiple iterations but movie adaptations. Guillermo del Toro took a shot at it. The anticipation was huge, and I have to give Jacob Elordi credit where credit is due. His performance, for me, absolutely drove this movie. In 2026, though, we're moving from the lab to the moors and the sea. Emerald Fennell is giving us Wuthering Heights, and if you've seen Saltburn, you know that this isn't going to be a polite period piece, nor is the trailer suggesting it to be that. It's going to be erotic, gothic, and probably very controversial. Looking at the discourse that we saw happening as soon as the trailer came out, we're going to get a bunch of videos discussing this movie once it comes out. I personally am excited to see this adaptation of it. I think personally, if you're someone that wants material to stay really close to the source material, something like Wuthering Heights has other adaptations that you can go look at already. I don't need another adaptation that follows the book page by page. That being said, I will bite my tongue if the adaptation is absolute crap. Paired with that, we have Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey. We've seen the return-style stories before, but Nolan tackling the literal foundation of Western literature, this is mythic storytelling with a massive technical heart. Much like how 2025's Frankenstein re-examined our creator complex, 2026's classic adaptations are about the trauma of the journey home. Again, I'm intrigued to see how this movie is going to be received by the audience. I think that The Odyssey has a massive existing fan base and people that respect the story a lot. I think Christopher Nolan is someone who will have massive respect for the existing story, but that being said, I have already seen some gripes people have with it based on the trailer that's come out. I don't think you can make movies based like this on classic, really famous literature works without having an audience that eventually is divided. That being said, it's not an excuse to make a horrible movie, and I hope Christopher Nolan makes a great one that stays true to some of the source material as well. Now, do I think we'll see more of this? Absolutely. 2026 seems to be the year where classic literature becomes the new Marvel. I wouldn't be surprised if we see another take on the vampire Dracula trope, and we already know that we're getting a 6-part series of Pride and Prejudice somewhere this year or early next year. So I think the classic literature to movie adaptation pipeline has only just begun. On to our next theme, from outer space to intimate spaces. In here, I want to focus on Project Hail Mary and the drama. These two movies have my intrigue piqued. On one end of the spectrum, we have Project Hail Mary. It's a massive space adventure, but at its core, it's Ryan Gosling alone in a room with an alien, using science to solve an impossible problem. It's kind of the ultimate small, smart blockbuster. We have a huge-scale storyline spanning across intergalactic issues, it seems. But it looks like what they want to focus on is the heart of it, which is Ryan Gosling and the alien and how they work together. Something that I think Stranger Things Season 5 forgot about. All that being said, I truly think, again, this is a movie that in terms of quality can go either way. And I just hope that it remembers what is at its core and gets the balance between sci-fi blockbuster and heart right. Then we shrink the scale down to a single relationship in the drama. This is Christopher Borgli, Zendaya, and Robert Pattinson. It's about a couple whose life falls apart because of a secret or a dream. It's intimate, it's psychological, and it's set to be slightly uncomfortable. 2026 is showing us that a big idea doesn't need to be a galaxy. It just needs two people and what seems to be a terrifying truth. I am really excited for this movie. I have to hold my hands up and say that I am just a big Robert Pattinson and Zendaya fan, so there is that. I'm very biased. But I know nothing about Christopher Borgli, and I'm really intrigued to see what kind of movie this is and what comes next. That already brings me to my final theme, which is just the horror pillar. And here all I'll be discussing is Ready or Not 2, Here I Come. Guys, I'm a huge horror fan. Me and my best friend Laura used to run to CEX on a Saturday, get the cheapest horror movies we could find. We'd get like 6 or 7 of them and just binge watch them throughout the weekend. At times finding absolute classics, at times finding the worst of the worst. Horror has always been the thing for me. My sister's the one who introduced me to horror through movies like The Grudge and The Ring, and I honestly haven't looked back, and I'm always down for a horror or a thriller. But to be honest, looking at the 2026 slate, I'm not that excited. There's only one that has me truly interested, which unfortunately is a sequel. It's Ready or Not 2. So the only reason I'm excited for it is because I think Ready or Not 1 was an absolute great movie. The first one was such a lightning in a bottle blend of satire and gore, and seeing Samara Weaving back in that blood-soaked dress, joined by legends like David Cronenberg and Sarah Michelle Gellar, is everything I want. I feel like horror historically is very much a hit or miss category. Hit or miss, huh? And while we've had some absolute bangers such as Bring Her Back and Weapons in 2025, so far in 2026, the standard isn't quite there for me. Maybe I've missed some announcements, or maybe I'm glossing over certain horrors that you are convinced are going to be amazing. Let me know in the comments below so I can start building up my watch list for the year. As I mentioned, I also briefly want to talk about 1 or 2 kind of themes that I'm seeing. The first one being the July 17th showdown, Nolan versus Spidey. You might have noticed I haven't talked about the upcoming Spider-Man movie, which I am also excited about. I guess in a way it fits into the blockbuster theme that we started out with. And so we have to talk about what might be the most chaotic month of 2026 in terms of cinema, July. For months, industry nerds like me have watched this game of chicken being played by Christopher Nolan and Sony Pictures. We were supposed to have the Barbenheimer of 2026 on July 24th, the day Tom Holland's Spider-Man Brand New Day was set to open just 1 week after Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey. But Sony blinked, and they've officially moved Spider-Man 4 back by I think about like 2 weeks into the end of July. Small change, but I think it will have a big impact on what both movies gross in terms of box office. After what happened with Mission Impossible getting absolutely steamrolled by Oppenheimer's IMAX contract in 2023, no one wants to fight Nolan for those IMAX screens. Nolan has The Odyssey absolutely locked down for massive exclusive IMAX run, and Spidey needs those screens to get to that billion-dollar blockbuster movie. Tom Holland is literally fighting himself in the box office. We're entering the summer of Holland, which I'm not mad about. It's quite an interesting look, isn't it, at the kind of civil war of cinema at the moment. We've got the auteur event versus the franchise machine. On to the second theme that I want to talk about, which is kind of the new faces of 2026, and I think the very prominent ones are Tom Holland, that we just talked about, Zendaya, Robert Pattinson, there's a few others. As I said earlier, I am biased. I love these actors. There might be other actors that we're going to see across our screens that have kind of faded into the background for me due to my anticipation for some of these movies. That being said, if you do look at some of the most anticipated movies of the year, like The Odyssey, Dune 3, Spider-Man, same names are starting to pop up: Zendaya, Tom Holland, and Robert Pattinson. And alongside that, Robert Pattinson is also gearing up for Batman 2, which I think is starting filming somewhere in the spring of this year. And so what I think this says is that in the 2010s, we had action stars like The Rock or Vin Diesel. In 2026, we have more of the chameleon stars. We have actors who seem just as comfortable in a $200 million Greek myth and a $20 million psychological drama. And that's why movies like the drama are starting to feel maybe as big as our Marvel franchises, because the actors carrying those movies have the same event energy. 2020 year, I think, is going to be the year where the prestige actor and the box office draw finally become the exact same person. So with all that being said, I hope that 2026 is the year where cinema stops trying to be safe and become essential. We're trading algorithm for auteur. We're trading multiverse for myth. And I think we're trading high-scale intergalactic stakes with the heart of a story. So, looking at what we currently have on the schedule, here are my 3 predictions. Prediction 1 is that the public domain is going to become the new Marvel. I think public domain is going to be Hollywood's new goldmine, looking at movie adaptations of classic literature. That being said, I think they've learned the lesson that it only works if you have an author. After the success of Frankenstein and most likely the success of The Odyssey, I think we're going to see more movies like this. Prediction number 2, the event over the binge. We're already starting to see this a little bit with streaming services, which are doing more of a stacked rollout of episodes rather than a just all-in-one, here you go, enjoy. And I pray that 2026 is the year that the streaming first model finally admits defeat to the theatre first model. I still don't understand to this day why we're premiering movies in cinema and on streaming services on the same day or with only like a week apart. And so we're seeing movies like Disclosure Day and The Drama get massive theatrical releases. For a movie to feel real in 2026, it first of all needs to not use Netflix lighting, and second of all, it needs a room with a 50-foot screen. As I like to put it, streaming needs to become the library again. Prediction number 3, return of the mid-budget masterpiece. The middle class of cinema is maybe finally coming back. For a really long time, I feel like movies were either a $200 million blockbuster and a franchise, or they were like a $5 million indie film. And while I have my enjoyment in those movies, probably more towards the indie side than the blockbuster franchise, because I'm just so tired of seeing another superhero, I hope that success in The Drama and Ready or Not shows us that these mid-range movies between the $20 to $50 million mark can really make an impact. That being said, that's still so much fucking money. Where do the people get the money from? That being said, hopefully this is the year where studios realize that they can make like 3 or 4 really good, interesting movies rather than one massive superhero movie. But what about the small screen? In my next video, I'm going to talk about what I think we can expect this year from TV. And so we've reached the end. What are you looking forward to the most in 26? What do you feel like is currently definitely missing from my watch list that I have to add onto it? What are videos you would like to see, deep dives you want me to go into? What topics in cinema or TV do you feel like people aren't talking about enough? Let me know in the comments below. I'll see you in the next dimension.